So today again we are with a new story, and we will understand that if you want to get a knowledge, when you want to get the wisdom, how you can get the wisdom, and what all difficulties are faced by any human to get that wisdom. So we will see we will try to learn it through a story. So we all know during our ancient times in India, most of the people, mainly the sages and hermits, they used to live in the forest. So there was one sage named Kaushik. So Kaushik used to live in the forest, and it was a very thick forest and very dense forest. And he was a Brahmin, and he was doing his penance, he was doing his austerity, and he was practicing his yogic sadhanas, and he had acquired a lot of siddhis also through those practices. Now, Kaushik was living alone, and he had left his family long ago, and most of his life he has spent on practicing the sadhanas and by reading the Vedas. And to feed his stomach, he used to go and beg his alms and try to take care of his daily needs. So, what happened? There is a small story here. When once this Kaushik was sitting and chanting some of the Vedic hymns, Vedic mantras, so a snow white crane who was on the top of the tree where he was sitting perched from the tree. And now that crane doesn't know who is down, and it is not needed also that the crane should know who is down doing the chanting. Now the little bird must have been unaware of Kaushik's greatness, definitely, because how a bird will know who is sitting down? And once little bird's droppings landed on the head of the Kaushik, Kaushik was into a rage, he was full of anger, and he thought himself that how dare a small bird can uh, put his droppings on me? I am such a great man. Immediately, Kaushik gazed at the bird, and the bird was burnt into ashes. So earlier, where there was a presence of a bird, now only ashes were left. So there, what happened? When this bird was burnt, immediately that nourished his ego more, and Kaushik thought that he has acquired a lot of spiritual energy now. That's why he was able to burn somebody or take the life of somebody. So this ego was there inside him, and he continued his practices with that ego. So after few days or few months, this sage Kaushik left for the retreat to a distant village. So he went to a distant village to beg his bread, because his whole earning, his whole uh, support for his life was through begging the bread. So usually what happens, people in olden India, mainly the sages and hermits, they used to follow this. Even now also it is followed, that sages, they go for begging, and it is a fixed thing that once you get it, it is fine, otherwise you come back. So he also went. So Kaushik appeared in front of a door, and he saw a lady who was there on the door, and he started begging. So that lady, she told and she requested Kaushik that please wait for few seconds or few minutes, as my husband has just now come and he's very tired and he's very hungry. And being very devoted woman and being very devoted wife, she began to feed the husband, and after that she served food also to the husband. And in between what happened, she forgot about this Kaushik, that who was standing in front of the door. But suddenly she remembered, and she felt very bad. She was ashamed of herself that she made such a great rishi to wait on her door. Now, this is not intentional. Remember that it is not intentional, because her duty was to feed the husband. But here, what happens? Sage Kaushik, because he was already full of ego, he felt very frustrated and he was very angry. And as he was observing all the actions of this lady, he was fuming with anger. He was totally out of order, you can say. He was very angry. And he thought, how can a common housewife dare insult a Brahmin like me? How can a common housewife dare insult a yogi and siddha like me? Thundered the hermit, trembling in rage. So these thoughts were thundering inside his head, and he was trembling in anger. Now the lady replied calmly to the sage, I regard my husband as my highest God. So that is the devotion that lady had for her husband. So she said to the Kaushik that I regard my husband the highest form of God. He has arrived from his work. He was tired, he was hungry. So my duty was first to offer him food, and after that definitely I could have time, and I had time, and I am now serving you the food. So she said to the Kaushik, please excuse me. The hermit shouted, don't talk back to me. Hermit, the Kaushik was very angry. Don't talk back to me. Do you know that I am a Brahmin, and that also with extraordinary powers? So ultimately, the ego which has entered in the head has come out from the mouth. So he said that I am such a great person. How can you make me wait? Your husband can wait, you can wait, but why should I wait? So this wife replied very firmly, Holy sir, holy sage, please calm down. Please calm down. Am I a poor crane that is going to be burnt because you look at it angrily? So, do you think that I am a small, poor crane which will be burnt if you look at me with your anger? Do you think like that? It is going to happen? Don't get so excited. In all your studies, haven't you learned that anger gets in the way of spiritual knowledge? So, Kaushik was taught back, and well taught, that anger becomes an obstacle in the path of spiritual development. So, have you learnt about it or not? The lady asked to the sage Kaushik. Now, Kaushik was even more angrier. This advice was a jolt to his ego. So, this advice that please calm down, and are you going to burn me like that bird? filled a lot of rage and anger inside him, and his face was red out of anger. Then suddenly he realized, hold on for a minute. How does this lady know about me so much? Who told her that I did this and this bird was burned? Because that happened in the forest. How does this lady knows? But the lady not only had psychic powers, she was compassionate too. So lady was very compassionate, and along with that compassionate behavior, she had the spiritual powers also. So that lady told to Kaushik, Kaushik ji, I don't understand your various religious and spiritual rites. She says that I don't understand what practices you have done to get this siddhis, but I do my own duty with whole souled devotion. She says that what you do, what you have done, I don't know about it, but I know that my whole soul and complete devotion towards my work. And that is why what I regard as my religion and my austerity. So she says that whatever is my work as a householder, I consider that as the biggest yogic practice and rites for me. So that is only the practice for me. My husband is to me the greatest God, and service to him is my greatest spiritual religious practice. So she says that my husband is the greatest, the highest God for me, and to serve him, to keep him happy, is the only spiritual practice I know. I feel that I am spiritually progressing because of this attitude, and she says that because of this particular attitude, I am feeling that I am slowly uh, spiritually progressing also. As you can see, even though I haven't run off to the forest, I too have developed powers like you. So she says that being in the household, being in the family, even though I haven't gone to the forest and done any of the tapashyas and practices, still I am progressing and I have some spiritual powers like you. I already knew that you have done this mistake in the forest. What mistake? Burning the bird. And because of that only I came to know. So I already knew that you have a very bad temper, and because of that bad temper only you have burned the birds. Now, what I feel, you have not grasped the depth of the spiritual practice. So, unless and until you grasp the spiritual practice and the methods to do that, you will not be able to grow. So she advises Kaushik to visit Mithila. So Mithila is a place, or it is a part of Bihar, modern Bihar. And Mithila, if you see the history of Mithila, it has got a very rich history, because Mithila is also known by Raja Janak and Mithilesh Kumari Ma Sita. So she says that listen to my advice and go to Mithila, and a person named Dharma Vyadha, a person with the name Dharma Vyadha is there, and he knows the subtle truths of the spiritual practices, and he will teach you how to control your senses, and ultimately he will guide you to become more realized in your future. So please visit him. And once you visit him, you will feel blessed. Now, Kaushik Rishi, he was very silently listening to whatever she said to him. And after listening, he comes back to the forest. And in the forest, he was just introspecting what all things have happened. And then finally decides, okay, let us go to Mithilanchal. And he thinks that she is one of the most wonderful women I have met in my life till now, and whatever she has advised, it is going to help me in my spiritual development. So let me go and talk to Dharma Vyad. So Then he thinks Dharmavyad is the name which is not Brahmin, but after a lot of confusion and conflict in the mind, he decides to go to the Mithilanchal. Now, on the way, he crosses many kingdoms, small kingdoms, bigger kingdoms, many rivers, many farms, hills, many huts, forests, and many cities on the way to Mithilanchal. As he was covering a very great distance on foot, he was begging his food on the way, and after several weeks and months, he finally reached the Mithilanchal. Now, Mithilanchal was a very beautiful city, well planned city, well cleaned, and artistically developed city. And the citizens looked very happy and very healthy. And Kaushik learned that Mithila's fame as an ideal city was due to the governance of King Janak. Because this is the time of Raja Janak, so everything was fine, his governance was good, so it was because of that. Then he asked some people about Dharmavyad, where I can meet. So people showed him, okay, this is the place you can go and meet Dharmavyad. So finally he reaches Dharmavyad. And when he sees a shop, and that shop was fully covered with lot of people. Lot of people were standing in front of the shop, and he thought he is a holy man. So because he is a holy man, lot of people may be standing in front of him to learn what he is. So whenever he discussed about the Dharmavyad, people showed him the shop, and he was just waiting for the shop to be closed, but it was full day, full. And finally he came to know that the shop owner or the Dharmavyad was a butcher. And then suddenly Kaushik thought, ki, how can a butcher be a realized soul? And are these whole crowded people or the whole crowd is running behind that butcher? So meanwhile, Dharmavyad had to come to know about Kaushik. So meanwhile, while this internal discussion was going on, Dharmavyad understood that Kaushik had come for him. So he says, dear Kaushik, please tell me how can I serve you? I know that a pious housewife in your neighborhood has sent you to this distant land. Now, during those days, there was no internet, there was no phone, there was no nothing way of communication. So, this type of mental powers were more active. As we have started reducing the usage of this mental and physical powers, so automatically things are becoming vestigial nowadays. So, here what he says that Kaushik, please tell me why you have come here and how can I serve you, because you have been sent by that holy woman who stays nearby your forest. Then he says, anyway, I know why you have come. So Kaushik was again surprised and shocked to know that how did a person who is a butcher knew all the things about him, and how could he has got such a superpower or yogic powers. Now, once he this whole thing was going on, he became very humble. He understood there is something here. So what happens that Dharmavyad requested Kaushik to come to his home, and there was a discussion, and in between that discussion, Kaushik suggested to Dharmavyad that don't you think that whatever profession you have, it doesn't go with the spiritual practice. I think you must stop it. So the Dharmavyad, who was a butcher, said that this livelihood belongs to my caste. So whichever caste I belong today, this particular job is for my caste, so I have to do that. And my forefathers also have done the same job. I don't share any disgust at all. I always confirm the injunctions of the scriptures. So I don't discuss with the things, I just follow what the scriptures have told. I wholeheartedly serve my parents, serve my elders. I am truthful and bear no malice towards anyone. I am very true to my actions and I don't have any wrong thoughts about anybody. I spend a considerable portion of my income in charity. I entertain guests as best as I can. After worship is over, the elders and everyone else, family members, guests, and servants, they have all enjoyed the food. Whatever is remaining, that only I consume. So, this service I consider as my duty, and I do it with my much devotion what I have. So, I don't see that it is wrong. And all of this costs money because whatever charity and whatever activities I'm doing, everything requires money. And selling the meat is my profession, it is my job allotted to me by my caste. So I'm doing it. I may myself do not eat meat, nor do I kill the animals. Only thing is, I just sell the flesh. So Kaushik was sorry that he has underestimated Dharmavyad. So Kaushik thought, ki, okay, maybe I was too early to judge somebody like Dharmavyad. So he knew that he was in the presence of a holy man. So gradually Dharmavyad drifted into the talk of higher spiritual practice. There was a ring of sincerity in his words. The knowledge of Atman is the highest knowledge, which Dharmavyad told to Kaushik. Truth always promotes the public weal. Truth is the way of getting blessings. Control over the senses, control over the mind is the highest form of austerity. The soul is eternal and body is non-eternal, for we lose our body at the time of the death. So these were certain things, some things which Kaushik learned from Dharmavyad. Now Kaushik by this time became convinced that the person who is sitting in front of him is a noble soul and he knows so much about it. So he also felt that it was not scholarship but noble conduct that had made Dharmavyad what he was. Reverentially folding his hands to Dharmavyad, he said, "You know every inch of the spiritual practice. I have discovered a sage today. You have attained a perfection while maintaining the appearance of being a meat sailor. Even though you are a meat sailor, you have attained the perfection, you have attained the equanimity, you have attained the equilibrium of your actions. So I have discovered a sage." Dharmavyad then taught Kaushik the secret of work, the secret of action, secret of skillful action, and how it has to be done, how the duty has to be performed without any expectations and without any uh, cheating. So finally, Kaushik learned so much about the spiritual practice and then he understood that how he has to go forwards. Then finally, this Dharmavyad says to him that you must go back to your family as you have not taken the permission from your parents. So first take the permission from your parents and once they permit then only you are supposed to go back to the forest. So after telling this, Kaushik understood that yes, there are a lot of things which need to be learned. And then finally he goes back to the parents, take the permission, and after taking the permission, he goes back to the forest and he starts practicing his sadhana. So here the main purpose of this story was we have to understand that the service to the man should be rendered in a spirit of worship. So, whatever service you are giving to the person, it has to be done with the thought of worship. You are worshipping the person, and we have to always understand that the supreme energy of the God is present inside everybody. And when you are serving some human, so actually you are serving the supreme God. So, as every soul is potentially divine, every soul is potentially divine, every soul is a part of the supreme consciousness. So, whenever you are serving anybody, have that thought that you are serving the God directly. We should begin by serving our own people. First, we should begin serving our own parents, our own family members, our own relatives, and then slowly it has to spread everywhere. So, here, what is important is if you want to attain the reality, supreme knowledge, it is very much important that first remove the ignorance from your side. Because, see, if you think you know so much, if you think you know everything, and if you think that whatever you are telling is the ultimate thing, so this story tells that somebody bigger than you is sitting in front of you. So, see the practices or do the practices which can neutralize, which can remove the veil of Maya, which can remove the ignorance, which can burn the asmita, which can remove the rag and dvesh from you, and you are free from all the pains of the life. The importance of the sadhana is not just for spiritual practice, but even for the mental health and physical health. So, practice yogic sadhanas for your physical and mental health. Finally, it will lead you towards the spiritual practices also.